recent price flux. Recent price flux? I don't know.
Okay, I messed up the title.
Yeah, it was just.
I think we're live right now, Rick. I accidentally pressed enter. I apologize, and
that's fine.
I messed up the title too.
I call that making the sausage. It's okay if people see how we make the sausage.
Okay.
If you ever see how someone makes sausage, you won't eat sausage anymore.
Okay. I messed that one up. I'm sorry. I didn't even finish the title.
That's all right. Are we on Zencastr?
Yes, we are live. So
we're good, man. Sorry, we're starting kind of late. I just got back from San Diego, and it was just a rough start for me getting reset up. So I apologize for the delay.
And I messed up on the title. Sorry, everyone.
We're good. Oh, yeah. We'll fix it later.
Oh, yeah.
It's not blockchain.
Oh, my God.
If it was blockchain, you couldn't fix it, but it's YouTube. You can always fix it later.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
I
was just talking to Rick, and the microphone's in front of my keyboard. So I'm typing in the title that I have saved, and then I accidentally pressed the enter button because I can't really see the keys. So I apologize. But at least I didn't make any typos on that next steps for staking.
All right.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Stretchy B. Hi, Forza. Hi, the guy from Switzerland. Doing well. Senyo, Bahadir.
All right. I see we're live.
Darren, Gerald, Steve. How are you doing today?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for dialing in. Apologize for the late startup.
Lead trans. Title will be fixed later. I apologize. That's all my fault. But we're just going to go ahead and start. Okay. You ready, Rick?
Yep.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the Cardano Effect podcast, episode 61. The purpose of this podcast is to take high-level developer information and projects that are occurring within the Cardano space and break them down into bite-sized, consumable pieces of information for everyday use. I'm your host, Philippe, and let's get this podcast started. This is our weekly live stream recap. So what we do in this episode is we take the news on Reddit for the past week, everything that's happened within the Cardano ecosystem, and we talk about it. We give our viewpoints, we look at the chat, we answer questions, and we really have an intimate setting with the YouTube audience. So this is our live stream. It's just Rick and I. We were actually supposed to have a scheduled guest this week, but that didn't work out. It just goes to show you that we do put the effort out there, but sometimes things just fall apart in the end. But we are trying to get guests on this podcast. But if not, if we don't have a guest for the week, Rick and I, you can depend on our live streams where we can have a good time and have a good conversation. We're going to be talking about a few things today. Obviously, I messed up on the title, but we're going to be talking about a little bit about the price, a little bit about staking, and then we're going to be talking about the recent news for this week. So without further ado, none of what we say on this podcast is financial advice. Remember, you are your best financial advisor. And if you don't think you are, you need to find someone who's qualified to do so. So Rick, I know you've been traveling a lot. How are you doing this morning? What's going on? What's happening?
Hey, I'm doing all right. I'm getting used to traveling, so I don't suffer from jet lag too badly. And back up and running. I would like to thank IOHK for sponsoring this podcast. We very much appreciate your support. And I'd also like to remind viewers who are new to this podcast that we are available on all the major streaming apps like Deezer, Libsyn. There's too many to shout out. So all major streaming apps. We're looking at TuneIn on how to get put on there. A couple of people asked me about that. So just a reminder, there's an audio podcast in case you like listening to podcasts while you are driving in your car or working out. That makes it more convenient. This week, we're going to be also looking at the news over on Reddit. We go to Reddit and we sort by, at the Cardano Reddit, we sort by top this week. And when we do top this week, what we do is we sort by that, and that will be some of the news that we go to because that's the most important stuff coming up on Reddit. And a few other things, though. Philippe was going to start us off with some specific topics that were also important in the news that he's very well researched on. So, Philippe, what did you have for us today? You were going to get into something there. What was that?
Okay, so I mean, if we sort by top, for this week. I'm going to go ahead and put that Reddit link inside the description later. But you can go to Reddit, sort by top, sort by this week. We have quite a few headlines, and the first headline on Reddit is from TCCP. It says, breaking news fresh off the press, Cardano Foundation to work with African nations to develop blockchain governance. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I am a Cardano investor. We are all Cardano investors. But titles and news articles, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's a Cardano related thing. I don't know if it's blockchain as a whole. But we've got to be able to separate fluff from the realness. And if you read this article, if you don't read the article and you just read the title of the article, the title of the blog, it makes it seem like it's something bigger than what's actually happening. When I first got involved with this project, the whole mantra of Cardano was to bank the unbanked. And there was a lot of development that was focused on in Africa. And whether that be through the Haskell course or whatever initiatives that IOHK has going on in Africa right now. Personally, I've been trying to follow what's been going on in Africa. And I think that there could be a lot of improvement. I don't think a lot of news articles have been shared with the audience, with the Cardano audience. I don't know if we're getting a strong foothold in Africa. I don't think we are. I think that there's a lot of work to do. But if you read this article, it says that the Cardano Foundation to work with an African nations to develop blockchain governance. And inside the article, I believe the second to last paragraph, it says, the Switzerland-based foundation has joined forces with the African Leadership College Economic Development Board in the University of Mauritius and the Embassy of Switzerland, Swiss Blockchain Federation, Crypto Valley Venture Capital, and Switzerland Global Enterprise to lay the groundwork to future-proof the blockchain industry in this island nation. So Mauritius is a small country, and it is a small country off the coast of Madagascar. And Madagascar is just off the coast of South Africa. So Mauritius is technically in the Indian Ocean. And we're going to talk about demographics here, and I'm not trying to elicit any negative reactions from everyone or anyone in particular. But when I think of Mauritius, I don't really think of Africa. The majority of the people that live in Mauritius are Indian. There are Chinese people that live on Mauritius. When you think about Africa, you think about Africans living in Africa, and that's not the demographic that comprise of Mauritius. It's not at all. Even if you check the prime minister and the history of prime ministers, they all look Indian, and they all have Indian names. They practice Hinduism. It's not an African country. So I did a little bit of more research on Mauritius, and Mauritius is considered like the Switzerland of Africa. But so they're financially doing well, and they're a hub for economic activity. But when we're talking about banking the unbanked and banking the impoverished people in Africa, Mauritius is not the place to do that. So having a foothold in Mauritius means absolutely nothing to Cardano. It means absolutely nothing to the mantra of banking the unbanked. It means nothing. I don't want to sound so dramatic, but Rick and I are both US citizens. Anything that's happening in Guam or Puerto Rico or any of our territories has nothing to do with the 50 states in the United States. Absolutely not. I don't want to hear about what's happening in the US Virgin Islands. I don't need it doesn't matter. They're their own entities. US has territories there, but it doesn't matter. So Mauritius, I don't know. I'm going to question that. So basically where Mauritius is getting their money as well is they have very good relationships with China. And I don't want to, again, anyone who's pro-China here, that's fine. That's your viewpoint and whatnot. But if you watch documentaries, if you read articles, you know that the relationship between the Chinese and the Africans, it's slightly predatory. It depends, if you're pro-China, you won't look at it like that. But if you are pro-Africa and pro the unbanked, you look at it as predatory. And basically, China infuses a lot of capital into African countries. That capital comes in the forms of infrastructure. They build bridges, they build roads, they build like train stations, infrastructure for African countries. But this is debt-based infrastructure. So basically, they line the pockets of politicians in various African countries, and in return, China builds certain infrastructure for being allowed to run their operations there. So you have a lot of Chinese companies that are running mines in Africa, and basically getting all the resources from various different countries. And this is their foothold into there. We're going to build you infrastructure, and result, you give us the rights to this mine or this natural resource. And over time, it's become extremely predatory, because it's a debt trap diplomacy, or debt-based diplomacy. So it's not like the African countries are getting the infrastructure with nothing in return. They have to pay high interest rates. Many of the countries are in debt tens of billions of dollars to China. And in return, China basically owns the country. It's not called China, but it's China. So, whatever their strategy is to exploit whatever's happening in Africa, that's on them. But a lot of the exploitation happens on count if you tie it in with the country of Mauritius. Mauritius has the best relationship with China. So Mauritius is selling the rights for other African resources to China. There's a tie in between Mauritius, China, and the rest of the mainland continent of Africa, because Mauritius is economically more viable than a lot of the countries in Africa. So if we're going to talk about banking the unbanked, we've got to be understanding that what relationships are we trying to build? Are we trying to build relationships with Mauritius, or are we trying to build relationships with Africa? Either way, I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know what the right methodology is, but we've got to understand what is going on, and we've got to look at it with a grain of salt. The article also continued to say that the Cardano Foundation already supports various initiatives that focus on blockchain governance, implementation, fintech conduct, smart contract frameworks, and education, both in Africa and beyond, and has active Cardano communities in Nigeria and Rwanda. So these active Cardano communities, these are just meetup groups and Cardano enthusiasts. They're not what we think they are. So let's wrap it all the way back to what I was talking about in the beginning. This is the top news article for this week, and I was very disappointed because I don't really see this as news, and I don't understand what's going on here. It's not really going to affect the price of ADA whatsoever. It's not really on the mantra of what Cardano was initially, as far as banking the unbanked in Africa. I don't think there's any correlation besides that. And Mauritius is it's the worst country you can pick out of all the African countries to say that you have a partnership with Africa. The people that live in Mauritius are not even, they're considered African by geography, but the constitution of what the people are on that island, they're Indian, they're Chinese, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you can't, it's not Africa. It's not Africa. And, I may have said some things that were slightly offensive to people that may be in those particular areas, but I meant no offense from there. I'm just trying to look at it from a partnership standpoint and a business standpoint. So I'm going to pass it back over to Rick, or we can go to chat and see what's happening.
I'll take that flaming hot potato right off your hands, bro.
Okay.
No, it's fair enough. It's always good to get multiple perspectives on how you look at something. And to provide a different perspective, I would think that if the Cardano Foundation was going to try to get some leverage in Africa, is start at the financial hubs that are centralized, because you can get a little more leverage by going through the centralized methods. I guess, maybe that's the approach. There might be a strategy to that. However, we got to look at both sides of it. Also, you got to say, well, that's not really Africa yet. And perfect example is, U.S. territories. Well, they're not the U.S. You can't go to U.S. territory and say, oh, look, we're doing something in the U.S. Well, not really. But,
Exactly.
Guam and Puerto Rico, are examples. They're just good examples.
Yeah.
Of what you meant. So that's fair enough. But yeah, it's probably going for the financial hubs like Hong Kong, Shanghai, New York City. I think I read somewhere like the majority of the money in the world flows through Hong Kong and New York City. in some capacity. So maybe Mauritius is a good point of entry over, in Africa. But I'm curious as to, how the progress has been with John O'Connor in Ethiopia and the students over there, because that was an extremely valiant effort. And it seems like that would pay big dividends on the education side and the self-support side in Africa. So let's go. Let's check chat.
Okay.
And see what we got over there. We did have someone ask, are we live? Thank you, Luke. We are live. The thumbnail, we have to fix that. YouTube decided to pick thumbnail 56 as a default, and that's not the default. So we'll get that fixed. It just grabbed episode 56 thumbnail and slapped it out there. Videotech Christian fixed that now. Okay, so thank you, Luke, and thank you, Christian. Let's see, anything else in there? Questions, if you guys got questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. That's what we do this for, is we want to get your real-time feedback on the latest subjects at hand. While you guys are thinking on what you want to ask about, I would like to point out that we were going to hit on price today as well. And there's been a recent drop in Bitcoin. It seems to me, I don't know why, and again, never financial advice on the Cardano effect, but it appears to me that the hit came from an article from a relatively obscure but reasonable news source about the Binance offices were raided in Shanghai, China. Okay, so there was an article, and it's a he said, she said thing. Then it came out that CZ and Justin Sun started a anti-FUD campaign because they said it's all FUD, it's not true. Then the owner of the news company that came up the article came back and said they have proof. I think it's a bunch of crap. I think it just shows that the crypto industry is immature because a stupid little piece of news like that can wreck the price. I think it also indicates the crypto industry is way overly centralized. When you have two giants like Sun and CZ who can, form a coalition and get together 200 Bitcoin. Holy cow, man, that's a lot of freaking money right there, right? And try to start an anti-FUD campaign. It's like, okay, you're centralized, because the way news works is if someone puts out bad news, just stop looking at it. That's how the Western world works. If they're bad, you just stop looking at it, and eventually they go away.
Yes.
You don't have to form a anti-FUD campaign at the price of 200 Bitcoin. Man, if I had 200 Bitcoin, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, and so they're two billionaires, and then CZ tried to get Elon Musk on board with his program. He wants to form a team of billionaires. Okay, great idea. Just centralize the whole thing. Good job, guys.
So
that's not what we're trying to do here. And that's another point that I want to bring up, why crypto is so centralized. Bitcoin goes down and drags everything else down with it. That is a centralization problem. That's a point of centralization that needs to heal itself over time. And the cryptos need to stand on their own. And until that happens, crypto centralized.
Yes.
Period. That's just all there is to it. There's a point of centralization that is an Achilles heel.
I agree.
Yeah, man.
They raised 200 Bitcoin from patrons, or how did they get that 200 Bitcoin?
They just went back and forth on Twitter. They just, one of them said, I'm going to throw in 100 Bitcoin on an anti-FUD campaign between either CZ and Justin Sun. And the other guy jumped in and upped the ante and said, okay, I'll match your 100 Bitcoin. And they were responding to something from Elon Musk.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, I mean, anti-FUD, yeah, that's great. But you know what? It needs to take its course naturally. You can't have the powerhouses come down with a heavy hammer.
Yeah.
That's not what it's about.
No, it's not.
I think that's like a Chinese mentality. If you don't like the news, squash it. That's not how it works in the US.
No, yeah.
I mean, I mean, the rest of planet Earth, pretty much. Anywhere besides China and North Korea, that's just not how it works. Even Russia and all the countries that used to be a little tight, they're very open.
Yeah.
It's like we wouldn't even have this channel if that were the case. People just drop the hammer and off you go, right?
Yep, that's true. That is true. 100% true. And speaking about centralization in Bitcoin, I mean, just the fact that Justin Sun and CZ were able to have so much leverage. I mean, it proves it's centralized, but it proves it's country centralized too. It seems like China is pretty much running what BTC has. They've controlled the narrative. They control the narrative. We're at the whims of the Chinese BTC. And anyone that disagrees with that, prove otherwise. I mean, all the FUD seems to come out of China at specific times, and then the price just completely tanks or appreciates.
And they control the hashing power. So the only way to wrestle back control of the hashing power is some Texas guy is opening up a 100-acre Bitcoin mining farm in Texas, 100 acres. That's going to take 1 gigawatt of power. Dude, right now, the Cardano Testnet is using only the Jormungandr process itself. I measured it at 10 watts times 200 nodes. The entire network is using 2,000 watts. That's the power of 2 toaster ovens to run the entire Cardano network right now. 2,000 watts. And they're going to open up a 1 gigawatt Bitcoin mining farm to compete. It'll never end.
Never end.
It's like a Cold War. It'll become it'll be like the Cold War. Oh, they built a bigger one. We built a bigger one. They built a bigger one, and it's just going to go on forever. It's going to suck up so much power. 1 gigawatt's a nuclear reactor.
That's outrageous.
And I don't want to hear this
100 acres.
hogwash. Yeah, I don't want to hear this.
A waste of
hear the
land.
hogwash about, oh, it incentivizes green resources. No, it doesn't, because they're not using green resources.
No.
Maybe Iceland is, or somewhere they're using thermal energy. But I looked the numbers up, and it's still well over 70% on fossil fuel powered to run those mining farms. So
you know how many animals can graze on 100 acres, or people that can live on 100 acres, and then they're wasting it on some BTC mining farm when there are alternatives. There are alternatives, like you said.
Yeah, it depends on where in Texas, though. The western side of Texas, near El Paso, and on the western half, that would be a great solar panel farm, or a tumbleweed farm.
Okay.
But the central and eastern side of Texas is beautiful, and the other half is still beautiful, but kind of desert. Yeah. Okay. We had a few questions in here. There was one that said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. Oh, I lost it." There was a question about, in China, this was from Ernesto. It's China. Are they out of the realm of the possibility of raid? Good question, Ernesto. No, they're not. There's definitely raids in China. Whether or not it happened, we don't know. It's like impossible to verify. All we can say is a news company reported it, and Sun and CZ refuted it. And now we don't know. So it's one or the other. Right?
Yeah.
If he was in the US, some guy with a cell phone would walk over there and point the cell phone at it, and you'd see live video. But they're not in any other country outside of China. That's exactly what would happen.
Yeah. I mean, if YouTube. Yeah. But if that happened in China, that person would disappear too, the one taking the cell phone footage. So, you don't know what the real story is. Censorship is real over there. So,
right. And it's like Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is very open, and you see everything happening on Hong Kong is available on YouTube.
Yeah.
All the riots and raids. So it's happening in Hong Kong. You're not going to see it in Shanghai. You know what I mean? We have no way of verifying that.
Yeah. I don't know where CZ and Justin Sun live, or but I'm sure they're cognizant of the Chinese Communist Party. And I'm not trying to derail it whatsoever, but it doesn't take long for people to disappear, especially in those kind of regimes. So what happens? What happens if Binance all of a sudden loses favor from the Chinese Communist Party? What happens? It goes dark. Move your money off exchanges, by the way. I mean, you think it's decentralized. You think that there's no kill switch, or you think that there's no way for things to get frozen, but it could happen. It really could happen. Blink of an eye. You wouldn't even know.
Either frozen or hacked.
Exactly.
Both are high probability. Well, a fair threat. It's a threat.
Yes.
Speaking of threat and shifting gears, you guys got any questions? Let us know in the chat. There's a popular YouTuber, Cryptocandr, and she was very kind enough. She made a mistake and gave her private key up on Discord to who she believed was a Horizon Tech support, because there was all indications that it was, and then it got hacked and it got stolen. So just a reminder to all the viewers out there, never ever give away your private key. And I have to admire Cryptocandr's humility in being able to come out in public and say, hey, I screwed up. And it's fair enough. I mean, even the best race car drivers have car accidents. So, I mean, so thank you, Cryptocandr, for putting the word out that everybody can make mistakes and protect your private keys. So she's trying to help people out by leading by example there and getting the word out on the street. So yeah, always protect your private keys. Never give them out to anybody. The Cardano Foundation has put out a couple of tweets on, and they put out a lot of information on online safety, and they put out the Cardano Foundation will never ask for ADA or private keys or anything like that. Same as IOHK and Emergo. They put out that all three of the primary Cardano organizations will never ask for your private key. So please never give it out. Just a reminder. And please pass it on to all the new folks that you see in Telegram and on social media and even in your community meetups. Is number one importance is safety. And if you don't give out your private key, no one can take it. It just cannot, it can't get stolen. Or off an exchange. If you don't keep it on an exchange, and you also never give out your private key, it can't be taken away.
Yes. We all work hard for our money. We are all, I guess most of the people in this chat room right now, maybe or may not be invested in Cardano. Whatever crypto you own, you work hard for it, keep it. You know, even if it's going to zero, it doesn't matter. I'm playing. That was a joke, but it's not going to zero long term. But just keep it. I don't want anyone to lose their money. It's not a good feeling. You work too hard for that. So.
Yeah, you did. And that kind of leads us into the next major subject we were hitting this morning, and that is, what are the next phases of the Incentivize testnet? Okay, and that is what do you need to do to prepare? Now, Philippe is a lot better versed on what to put out on this. Mine is real simple, is if you want to participate, is move your ADA to a Yoroi or Daedalus wallet, not any hardware wallet. I also saw news that ADA Lite is also going to support it. So keep that in mind also. But my thing is ADA Yoroi, no hardware. So Philippe, what else do we need to do to prepare? You had some
yes. So the first snapshot happened earlier this month, and you were able to download the balance check download from Daedalus and Yoroi and check to see whether or not your balance was accurately reflected. Some people had issues. You could open up a support ticket showing a snapshot of your original Daedalus wallet and then the Incentivize testnet wallet if the quantities of ADA did not match. Most people have fixed that problem. They also released a new version of that balance check because there were some glitches for some users, and it's 1.1.0 now. It's staking.cardano.org. So you want to make sure you can go there. You can check the checksum as well for added security. Just check to see whether or not the balance is accurately reflected. Now, that first snapshot, it didn't really even matter. So if you have your seed words and you have it in a snapshot ready address, you'll be good to go for the incentivized testnet staking. What you need to make sure that you do is keep it in a snapshot ready address. So the second snapshot is supposed to happen later this month. That's what we've been hearing. We have no specific date as of yet, but next week is the last week of November. And for all the US citizens that are watching this and anyone else around the world that celebrates Thanksgiving, you may be eating with family. You may be spending time with family and friends next week. And you may say, oh, I'm going to move my ADA off the exchange next Friday. But it could happen while we're all eating food and we're spending time with friends and family. Remember that IOHK they're a predominantly European company as far as the distribution of employees. So they're not celebrating Thanksgiving. So they're working next week and they could release that second snapshot and you may not even know. So don't delay. This is Sunday today. If you have time, you go to work tomorrow. If you go to work next week, if you have a short work week, try doing things today. Try doing things tomorrow. Make sure that you do things as quickly and expeditiously as possible, because the second snapshot is your last chance for the incentivized testnet staking. You will not be able to stake if you miss that second snapshot until the mainnet. And we know that that could take 3, 4, 5 months. We do not know yet. So if you're going to feel like you're going to have some kind of FOMO later on at the beginning of next year, oh, I'm not staking, I missed it, I feel bad. This is the chance to make sure that you're included. So have your ADA in a snapshot ready address. Take some time today, in the middle of the commercial break while you're watching football, take some time, send your ADA from your exchange to Daedalus and just let it sit there, or your DOI, and just let it sit there until the second snapshot is ready, because we do not know the date, but next week is the last week. So once again, I'm not guaranteeing that it happens next week, but it's a possibility. I know that I'm taking a little bit of time off. I'm going to spend some time with some family. All my ADA is ready to go. So if you're ready to go, make sure that it's in the accurate wallet. So after that second snapshot happens, I heard people say, are we going to have to download a new version? We do not know yet. It may just be downloading 1.2 and then that overrides 1.1. And then you can create a rewards wallet there and take care of the things there. But we do not know yet. That's not guaranteed. Once again, you are not sending your ADA from your mainnet wallet to your testnet wallet, and vice versa. You're not sending testnet ADA back to your mainnet wallet. As soon as the second snapshot happens, you can put it back on an exchange, put it on a hardware wallet, sell it, trade it, do whatever with it. If you have 1,000 ADA in your mainnet wallet, you'll have 1,000 ADA in your testnet wallet, and that's what you're going to be able to use to stake. I've also received questions about whether you're going to be able to restake your rewards in the testnet. I'm not sure how that works yet. Basically, that compound interest. If you have 1,000 ADA and you receive 1 ADA, and after a certain epoch, will you be able to invest 1,001 ADA into that next epoch? I know that's going to be present in the mainnet, but I don't know all the features of the testnet. I don't know if I wanted to pass it over to you, Rick, if you heard anything regarding that, but I have not heard anything concrete yet.
No, I haven't heard anything. There's an information vacuum right now. So whatever Philippe and I say on this program is gospel until someone overrides it. Okay, fair enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Right now, the testnet has multi-wallet staking capability for stake pool operator level skills only. You have to use a command line to do it. At some point, there will be Daedalus and Yoroi released, because IOHK and Emergo are working on that. So it will be a feature in the wallet. I've seen that pretty consistently. You build the back end first, you make sure the command line works perfectly, then you put it on the GUI front end. So I'm very confident that will occur probably within a month. You'll have the ability to stake on multiple pools from the wallet interface. However, I do want to add to that also. My own opinion is that I don't think we will see the incentivized testnet available to the general public in December. I do think the stake pool operators will be testing the incentivized version in December, because currently we are still testing the network version. We are not testing the incentivized layer. It's being built like layers. We did the self node and the underlying infrastructure was perfected. Then now we're doing the network, and that's being perfected. It has extremely tight tolerances. I am surprised. It has a 50 millisecond tolerance in there for clock sync, which is both amazing and like, wow, well, that's pretty tight. Okay. So networking is being tested right now. My own personal assessment is that the stake pool operators will have to operate an incentivized version of the testnet for at least 2 weeks to bang out all the bugs before they throw the switch and migrate the ADA and run the incentivized version of the testnet, I think it's going to be difficult to hit that marker by the end of December. Not impossible, but it's going to be a stretch.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
And I think that
just
there
to
will,
give. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go. Sorry.
That was just to give a realistic assessment. That is not official word. That's just the Cardano effect. My take on it. That's just how it looks. And if there's any pool operators, let me know in chat if you have another assessment. I noticed Luke said he thinks that the next snapshot will be November 29th. He would bet on it. I agree, Luke. I bet along with you in your favor that it'll probably be on the 29th if it occurs in November. It definitely won't happen on a weekend. That's all. I mean, I would rule that out. So, yeah, but that was the main thing. Is it's going to take time. The testing is going well. People are finding bugs, and the problems are narrowing down. So that's a good sign. And there's also another interesting thing. The testnet wallet, when you launch it, the newest version, the ITN, TAC ITN at the end, it launches Jormungandr on the back end. And also, we're running Jormungandr on the pools. Now, I have a hypothesis here. And this is just a hypothesis. I don't know all the details. I'm not privy to the details, but I think IOHK is working on a technology that removes the need for trusted peers. That's the only way we're going to put Shelley on the mainnet. So I think what's happening is both the dataless backend on the mainnet and the testnet backend are very similar in technologies. And when it boots up, it syncs off of one trusted peer a certain amount, and then it switches to another trusted peer. And that's what I'm starting to observe on the testnet also. That's in order to prevent any one peer from infecting the blockchain with malicious or modified blocks. Okay, I believe that's what the purpose of that is. It's in order to fully decentralize. So I think that's what we're seeing, the lag, and it's being perfected in progress, or it's a work in progress. Eventually it's going to be smoothed out.
Okay.
It's so that you don't download the entire blockchain from one trusted peer and end up with the wrong version of a blockchain. If you have to get different pieces from different nodes, then most likely you will have the correct version of the blockchain. It will be impossible for one node to infect the entire blockchain.
Okay.
Entirely a hypothesis. Okay. That's just me. I'd have no further information.
Well, what we say on this podcast is everything that we say is gold until proven otherwise. So we'll take it as facts until someone comes and
it's a fact.
proves us wrong.
It's a fact until someone says otherwise. Okay. All right. Let me see it. We can check chat, and then
let's check chat,
and then we'll hit Reddit.
Okay.
Ernesto asks, is it true that ADA generated through testnet staking rewards will be given to mainnet addresses? Yes and no. What happens is you have the mainnet and you have the testnet, right? They will exist in parallel. The ADA cannot cross over. So if you have a mainnet dataless wallet, then you put your keywords on the testnet. What happens is you created two instances of the ADA, and they are in parallel. They exist in parallel. Then at the end of the testnet, as the two are moving along, mainnet and testnet, at the end of testnet, then someone will have to manually go over to the mainnet and distribute it and say, okay, that's what was on the testnet. Now let's take wherever it resides on the mainnet and then distribute it to the people who participated in the testnet. But so the answer to your question, Ernesto, is yes, kinda, but it's they exist in parallel and they do not cross the boundary. I hope that helped. That was a terrible answer. God, Philippe, help.
No. I know. I think you described it correctly. When the bound, it's hard to visualize because there's two different basically chains that are happening at the exact same time. I mean, there's the test chain and then the main chain. And then I don't know how those are going to be merged at the end, that final instance when the testnet is completely deprecated, or is it going to run infinitely, and then another snapshot will just migrate to the main net. But as far as the two different chains interacting, I think that you gave a good visualization of that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to better describe it.
Yeah, the two streams will never cross.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Never.
So,
They can't. It's impossible.
yeah.
I've seen it over and over testing on. I'm like, holy cow. If you just simply, right now we're running a beta testnet and a nightly testnet, 2 identical sets of software. Everything is identical except the original block hash, and they cannot cross. It's impossible.
Yes.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
It's a good, yeah. It would be a complete catastrophe if they cross, because they both have different data, and how would you merge those two? Like, it would just, I would completely break the chain.
Yeah.
So
the nodes don't even want to talk to each other. To come, there's a node over there, whatever. It's not mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
Okay. Let's see.
Once testnet goes to mainnet, will you get your reward as real ADA? Yes. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Luke was answering. Thank you, Luke.
Yes.
LGBino. Let's see. It was a terrible answer. I know. I'll try to make a graphic and we'll get it out either on Philippe's channel or on my channel, and we'll get you a graphic that explains it.
Yes.
Or hope maybe Edutainment will do it.
Yeah.
Well, but they exist in parallel. All right, I think we're good there.
Yeah.
Let me think. Was there anything else on testnet or the rewards? I think we touched on everything.
Yeah.
There will be more wallets that have to come out because the wallets will have to have a tag. There will be a tag for the pools that you delegate to. So there will definitely have to be more wallets. And drilling down into the databases, I did find the testnet Daedalus has a stake pool database buried down in the file tree. So the technology starting to be implemented. Darren asked when tacos. Yesterday, Darren. Yesterday. All day yesterday and on Tuesdays. Ernesto's punching out. It's football time. Let's go over to Reddit.
Yes, let's go over to Reddit.
Okay. We had a few more things on Reddit. There was a Yahoo Finance, Cardano showing a lot of promise. That was the second Reddit for top this week. And it's an article from Yahoo Finance that the Cardano is showing a lot of promise. We're also seeing information coming out of Weiss Ratings on Twitter, where Weiss Ratings is, they're saying Cardano is more promising than EOS, and further information to follow. They plan on putting out something saying that Cardano is a better technology than EOS. So I'm curious to see about that. In the article, there's a link from Stake Nuts that links through the Yahoo Finance article. Stake Nuts is one of our pool operators. That's Merrick's pool, and he's got over 100 registered staking pools on the Cardano Shelly testnet in 2 days, and he has a graph showing the pool growth where it's a little over 100 in just a few days. So good news there. Pools are easy to set up. I need to do a video, Philippe.
Setting up a pool?
Yeah, I need to do a video on that. I'll do it on Mac first. Maybe I'll hit one tonight. Now that I'm back here in Virginia, I could not do it on my laptop alone. It would have been impossible.
Okay.
I didn't have the bandwidth. I can't do it on hotel bandwidth, both a stream and a video at the same build a pool at the same time. So we'll try to get something out to you guys.
I think that will be well received.
Okay. Yeah. But there's 3 main operating systems. Something to keep in mind if you do want to set up a pool, you can set up a pool on Windows, Linux, or Mac. They all work great. No one operating system is better than the other. Whichever one you're the most familiar with, set up a pool on that one. Just pick your favorite and say, I understand Windows, pick Windows and go for it. Let's see here. Oh, the balance check testnet update. That was our third big hitter in there, where it was a tweet from Charles that the balance check was a success. The only thing I don't know about the balance check, Philippe, I don't know if you've heard anything. How much ADA did people actually reinstantiate on the testnet? I think it's lookable, upable, but I just didn't look it up. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
if people, how many people put their private key on the test wallet, and how much ADA was reinstantiated on the testnet itself?
That's a good question. I don't know if they're going to release those numbers.
Yeah,
But yeah.
because the 31 billion exists. When you take the
Yeah.
snapshot, 31 billion on mainnet, and you put it over on a testnet, it exists exactly how it was on the mainnet. But how many people actually punched in the private key and it touched the blockchain, and now that ADA is accessible? Maybe that's a better word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, personally, I think it would be a success if, when we start staking, I think it would be a success if 20 to 25% of people with ADA participated in the testnet. I think that would be amazing. Because obviously it's going to be lower than if it was mainnet, because it's not real technically until we hit mainnet. But if we had 20 to 25% of people actually staking their ADA, and it may be less, if it was more than that, I would be extremely thrilled. Very thrilled.
Yeah. Although we need to hit 51%. Oh man, you just reminded me something. Although, you want more than 51% of the ADA stake to prevent a 51% attack. You know what's interesting? Someone retweeted an old video from Andreas Antonopoulos where he described it would cost $1 billion to attack Bitcoin. And kind of a little bit of a tangent here, but it was kind of also an interesting thought experiment. I'm curious to hear everyone else's thoughts on this. Let's say hypothetically, in order to attack Bitcoin, you'd have to have $1 billion worth of ASICs just to hit enough hashing power to pull off a 51% attack. And in that case, it would only last about 10 minutes until the next block in the code forked, and the rest of the miners said, we're going to take our own fork, and whoever did the attack, you are stuck on your fork, and off you go, right? The interesting thought experiment is it would cost a lot more than $1 billion to attack Cardano. It would cost orders of magnitude to attack Cardano. You know what I mean, Philippe?
Yes.
Because right now, if you were to go into Binance and CoinMarketCap, someone could figure this out, and I'm thinking of giving it a shot. Right now, let's say there is 1 million ADA for sale, and at the top of the list, it's 20 cents. So if you were to try to go buy those million ADA, and by the time you were done, you would have gone all the way up and hit the 20 cent ceiling. Well, now the price of ADA is 20 cents, and you barely acquired 1% of the ADA.
Yeah.
Right? So if you were to do that again, you would, again, either double or quadruple the price of ADA, right? It would go up in multiples. And at some point, it would go up in orders of magnitude. So for someone to acquire 51% of Cardano or of the ADA, every time you got halfway to 50%, the price would go up an order of magnitude. And,
yes.
And by the time you acquired 25% of the ADA at, by the time you acquired 4 billion ADA, the price of ADA would be insanely high. I don't know what that number is, but it would be way over $1.
Yeah.
Then for you to get another halfway to 50%, it would go up another order of magnitude, and it would be like $10, just for an example. So I think it can be estimated. There's no way to know, but it can be estimated looking at the current price. So what I'm getting at ultimately is that in order to attack Cardano or any proof of stake coin, to do it would cost orders of magnitude more than to attack a proof of work coin.
That's correct. That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the way that Cardano's run, a lot of people watching here, they all have their ADA on Daedalus or Yoroi. So even to funnel additional ADA onto an exchange, it wouldn't be instantaneous. Everyone has different sell points, and there's not 51% available at a reasonable price for it to even make sense. It would probably be billions and billions of dollars, if not tens of billions of dollars in order to successfully do it.
Yes. And of course, a similar concept applies to the proof of work coins if you were to buy them. However, we're talking about how they're mined. So if you wanted to attack, if you wanted to 51% attack a proof of work coin, you simply have to buy more hardware than what currently exists. Right.
Yes.
And that is not nearly as expensive as trying to purchase 51% of a well-established proof of stake coin. So
Or
again, that just baffles me as to
yeah.
why the prices are all so tightly attached to Bitcoin.
You don't even have to go that far. I mean, I don't even think it would take that much to do a proof of work coin like Bitcoin, because, I mean, just say you have an oppressive government, all you need is the police force of maybe China to just park their officers right outside the Bitmain facilities, maybe put a couple more warehouses, and it could be done pretty quickly for a lot less than $1 billion.
You know
I
what?
think.
That's a brilliant point.
You know?
Proof of work coins are subject to physical attack, especially
Yeah.
since there's only 5 major pools and a bunch of them are in China. That, you know, they could just physically capture the building and
Yeah,
then you're done. And then you're done. You know.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be much resistance there when, you know, the stormtroopers come in, you know, so.
No, not in China.
Yeah.
And in the other countries, the stormtroopers probably wouldn't do that in the first place.
Yeah, but
You know.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's an interesting point. So you can either physically attack it with more miners, or you can physically attack it with, you know, a police force or something like
Yes. And that's a lot less expensive
Yeah.
than doing it yourself, you know, and building up a whole bunch of miners and doing just attacking the location. I mean, you don't think the governments of major countries, if not almost all countries, know where these facilities are? Like it's I mean, it would be pretty easy for a powerful country like the US to take over, and it would be easy for a country like China to take over. You know, morally or ethically, I don't think the US would take over like that. But China is more than capable of just taking over Bitmain and the other 3 mining powers that are located somewhere in Asia, and just planting their troops there and finishing it off in 10, 20 minutes, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if there were already backdoor deals in China on those main Bitcoin mining farms where the government says, you're going to give us half or we're going to take it all.
Yeah. Oh,
it's a perfectly reasonable thing to occur. Perfectly reasonable.
Of course. There was that billionaire in China, and I guess he fell out with the Communist Party, and they raided his places, and he just had a whole bunch of gold, like bricks of gold in all his different home locations. And I think he had like hundreds of millions of dollars of gold. But as soon as you stop paying that tax to the government entity, as soon as you start paying your fee, you're done. You know, it's over. You know, you're raided instantly. So,
yep.
What happened? What happens? It could happen. It could happen. China's not going to raid Rick's stake pool or my stake pool or any of our other stake pools in the Cardano ecosystem. And if there are some stake pools in China that get raided, it's decentralized. So, you know, if we have 100, 1,000 pools out there, you're not going to be able to just take over the mining or take over the operations of Cardano like that, because it's truly aiming to be decentralized.
Yeah. And many others also, the proof of stake coins.
Yes.
And there are some pretty solid proof of work. Ethereum's pretty well decentralized, at least as far as hardware and how it operates. Hardware and software wise, it's very thoroughly decentralized. So, okay, there's a few comments in chat. Looks like people got a little back and forth in chat.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. It's all good. It's okay to argue. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Arguments are good. Just be respectful. Let's see. Back over to Reddit. If you want to check chat, and I'll get to our next Reddit point. So there was a lot of information on the balance check. That was the big thing. The first balance check. Prep for the second one. Okay. Also, word out from Charles Hoskinson, Cardano ADA will be a beast in 2020. I totally agree. After what I've seen Jormungandr can do, how fast it can communicate on very light resources, Cardano is going to be a beast. That is not hype. That is observation. It's already a beast. It can communicate extremely fast on very little resources. 070, Jormungandr 070 runs between 250 megabytes. It can run on 4 gigabytes or less. I don't know if it will be like that a year from now, but it currently can run on less than 4 gigabytes and less than 1 megabit per second and still sustain the blockchain. That is significant, in my opinion. That gives me hope right there. Lots of hopium. It is a beast. It is already a friggin' beast, and it's only going to get better. It's crazy, man. I might have to eat something undesirable. You remember 2 podcasts ago, I said, if IOHK can pull off running Jormungandr, they can run a global financial network on rock pies. I'm going to eat something desirable because I was a doubting guy. I was doubting. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I might have to eat something undesirable. Not hot sauce.
Just eat another cake, Rick.
Oh, those are desirable, though. They don't count.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Malky asks, do you think the Bitcoin halving will affect the price of Cardano? Probably, yeah. I mean, everything is tied to Bitcoin at the moment. So, you know, if Bitcoin price increases, it's going to drag us up too. I'm not sure how much it's going to drag us up, but it will drag us up. Bitcoin seems to drag up everything. And, you know, when people realize that they can make greater gains in other cryptocurrency projects, they're going to move money back and forth. But we're waiting for the day where we don't even have to talk about Bitcoin halving affecting Cardano's price because, you know, we're used and people are using the platform. People are writing smart contracts. People are staking. So it's really going to derive value based on what Cardano does and not what Bitcoin does. But we're not at that date yet. And we're probably still a ways away before we achieve that true decoupling, but it will happen eventually for a few tokens. And I think that Cardano's ADA is pushing itself to make sure that it's in the front running to be one of those tokens.
Yeah, I think the decoupling is going to be bloody. It's going to be bloody, man.
Yeah.
It's not going to be on like everybody's like, yay, we're on a bull market and it's time to decouple. That ain't going to happen.
No.
True innovation occurs on the edge of failure.
Yeah.
That's when it occurs.
And once Bitcoin loses its top spot, like officially on CoinMarketCap, it's going to be an interesting day.
Yep. And it will be
I don't know if I'm still on. I think Rick lost. Rick?
Yeah. Testing.
Yeah. I don't know. We just jumped out. Yeah. Testing.
Yep. I'm good. I got you.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, at some point, another technology will supersede that technology. That's just how technology works.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. All right. We got a couple more Reddit posts. Looks like we're coming up on the hour. And there was the next one down was from Reddit user Velvia695 and said, can we get an update on the 23 female coders in Ethiopia? How are they doing? Are all 23 still employed by IOHK? What are they currently working on? So great questions. I do not know the answers. The Cardano Community Podcast responded and said a couple of weeks ago, Max did an interview with Lars Brunez. And during that, the ladies and their current status were discussed as well. So the Cardano Community Podcast says their intention to release this in mid-December, but they're going to release it a little bit earlier. I didn't see if it came out yet or not, but check out their channel with an interview with Lars Brunez, and they discuss or they find the answer to that question. And a lot of people are very curious to know as well. But planting seeds takes time to grow trees, so we'll see how that turns out.
Yes, and back to what we were talking about earlier, when we were talking about the debt trap diplomacy and Mauritius and everything like that, I think the best course of action, obviously I'm not an expert for the countries in Africa or the African continent as a whole, but hiring actual Africans from these African countries to move things forward is the way to go, especially when you are trying to introduce technology, a product or service to a foreign country or a country that's culture is different, that their ways of life are different. You have to make sure that you are employing or empowering the people that are actually on the ground that represent the people that you are trying to help. You know, That's just how it goes. You're not going to have, I mean, if you have a European country, you're not going to have like a European leader come to the US and enact a lot of change as far as becoming president or holding high political office, because they're European and we're American. But you can have influences and work, different countries can work together, but at the end of the day, it's people that actually live in that country that have to represent those countries' values, that have to represent things moving forward. So we definitely need some more Africans involved with this project, and I think that will help out in getting the word out and showing the possibilities of what Cardano has to do.
Yeah, you can't just what's the old saying? Give a person a fish and you feed them for a day, teach them to fish, you feed them for a lifetime.
Yes.
So that's the goals over there. There's a few other good points in here. There was a Cardano Tezos comparison. I think that's a good comparison. I think it's good to compare Cardano and Tezos based off of the technologies. And so there's a comparison there if you want to check it out. I think it's also a good comparison to Stellar, although I'm not a coin holder. I got some space drops from Stellar. Thanks. Appreciate it. I hope Cardano doesn't do that. That is so cheesy.
Yeah, it is cheesy. It is cheesy. It is cheesy.
Yeah. I don't think they will. I love the way Charles says it. He always says, oh, if you want to burn coins, whose money are we going to steal? Good point. Thank you for that.
It is a good point. It is a good point.
All the data is in circulation. You're not going to have these ridiculous space drops.
Yeah.
Or airdrops. When airdrop? Never. I hope never.
No, never. They're just gimmicks to build up hype, because there's no utility, so they just have to keep on coming up with different things in order to keep people interested. But everyone here, you work, you find the price you want to invest in, and you invest in it. You don't need any of these airdrops or anything like that. It devalues your token long term. It really does. So
yeah, it just kind of throws it out there. And plus, I like the Cardano's proof of stake approach better. Of course, that's why I'm with Cardano, because it doesn't just inflate. It just doesn't magically, oh look, another 1% tokens just magically appeared in your wallet because the protocol said that's going to happen. The Cardano protocol requires people to do something. It requires a conscious decision, which I think is a more intelligent way of doing things. It'll operate more like the stock market does, as opposed to just magic money popping out of nowhere.
8729 Alexis says, you guys are right, but right now ADA needs a media blitz or a marketing team. Actually, I would disagree with you. Once we release staking and smart contracts, then we need that media blitz. Right now, we would just be media blitzing people into doing balance checks and using Jormungandr. In order to do that media blitz, it indicates that you're trying to reach a certain demographic of people or a certain audience, and that audience is usually the masses. And the masses don't want to be bothered with the building process. They want to be bothered with the utility process. How can I make money? How can I generate income? How can I get involved? How can I better my community? How can I create businesses? That part is not here yet. 2020, we can speak a whole different language, but right now it is the true early adopters, the true early builders that are involved with this project. So you guys and girls are very early to this project, and no media until we hit those goals. There's nothing to advertise at this point.
Yeah. And Alexis follows up with another good point and says, yes, but you build that team now. No. Yeah, I agree. You build that team now so that you have a team ready. I think they're building the team. There are marketers on IOHK and Cardano. IOHK, Cardano Foundation, and Emergo. They do have people with marketing professionalism and global public relation communication people. Okay. So there are a lot of those folks in place. I'm curious as to what Daniel Friedman's up to.
Yes. I know he's working.
That's the key right there. Yeah. Alexis, hopefully ask us, hey, when Daniel Friedman? Ask us. Let us know in the chat. Maybe we can get him to come back on. I mean, he loves coming on the Cardano Effect.
Yes.
That's where you're going to get some information right there.
Agreed.
We'll see if we can do that, Alexis. I'll try. I'm curious as well.
We have a
on the
quick
market
question.
insights.
We have a quick question from Mass Adoption. Question: if we got the first snapshot done properly, do we need to take part on the second snapshot? Yes. Second snapshot is the one that matters. So you can't. You said that. Can you leave your ADA on your ledger? No, not if you want to participate in testnet staking. The first snapshot was just a balance check. It really had no significance other than you checking to see if the correct wallets, if you had 1,000 ADA in the mainnet, making sure that you have 1,000 testnet ADA. That's the only reason for the first snapshot. Second snapshot is the one that counts. So if you have it on a ledger and you keep it on the ledger throughout the second snapshot, thinking that you are good with the first snapshot, you won't be able to stake. That's not when it counts. So,
Yeah. And of course, if it's in Daedalus, if you moved it to Daedalus or Yoroi on the first snapshot and it's still in the same Daedalus and Yoroi, you are okay.
yes.
Okay. That you've taken your action and it's still there. But me, on the other hand, I was in I was working on a laptop. So I moved it back over to the ledger. I moved it over snapshot, moved back to the ledger. So I have to do something. I have to move it back for the second snapshot. Okay. There was a couple other good questions in here.
Nayan Joshi keeps on putting some comments. I'm not sure if you're responding to other people. You say that I might be harsh, but ignoring true critics is not a good sign for the ecosystem health. Let me tell you something. Rick and I are not ignoring any critics, okay?
Yeah.
You say what you need to say. We don't mind. We can have a discourse. You seem to be speaking with other people. Once again, this is a live chat that's going on. We are talking, reading Reddit, and looking at each other at the exact same time. We cannot get to every single question. We pick and choose, and it's just based on the eyes, where our eyes are on that page at that particular moment. We're not running from any particular question. If you have criticisms about the project, put it up there. And if we don't get to it, we just don't get to it. It's not personal against you.
Yeah.
Jump on our live stream next time and see how difficult it is to manage 3 different things happening at the exact same time and making sure that everyone's question gets answered.
So let's get to Nine's question. Nine, we agree with you that you can't ignore the criticism. Here at the Cardano Effect, we put out that criticism. When Emergo HK was wrecked, and they're still kind of wrecked. I don't know if they've healed, but we called it out. So, and when any of the major organizations, we don't pick on them. We don't look for FUD or something to dig up. We don't try to dig up dirt. If something's malfunctioning, we say it. We just say it in a polite manner. So we agree with you, Nine Joshi. If you got a question, let us know in the chat. We'll get to that question. I don't want to get too wrapped around that. We know you're not trolling. We totally get it. You are not trolling. We admire having critics. We need critics. We totally get it.
Yes.
We even put out a call for critics. I asked for critics and hackers.
Yeah.
We got the hackers, and I want the hackers back too. These guys are awesome. We never got a true critic to Roger up. We had 30,000 interactions with that tweet. 30,000. Yeah, it's probably way over that now.
Yeah.
And no critics jumped on that to come on the Cardano Effect. We're still looking for critics. We are also, the challenge is still on the table. We're looking for someone to come up with the white papers. Philippe has the stack. It continues to grow. There are new white papers on the IOHK research webpage. The stack is getting thicker. There is another paper from Agalos from October of 2019. I can't remember what it is, but it was really good. Gosh, what was it? Check it out. Check it out on IOHK's research page.
Yes.
There's a new paper there. God, I read it and it just fell out of my brain. More coffee. Any other questions, guys?
Randy Ellis says, do you guys think that today's price reflects staking already being baked in? I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, the Incentivize testnet is right around the corner. So I know people wait last minute. So maybe right before we have the news media from IOHK, Emergo saying stuff, there may be a slight price bump. But these are such bearish times. It's hard to tell what's real and what's not.
Here's how I would answer you, Randy, is no, it's not baked in, because there was so much disappointment over the 1.5-year delay. The original, we saw a big jump right before, in March of 2018 through June of 2018, at least they had a very positive outlook because they're like, oh, staking in June of 2018. Well, that was 1.5 years ago. It's not here. So I think people came back to the reality, including myself, and said, you know what? It ain't going to happen. I won't believe it until I see it.
I think that's fair enough.
Don't believe it till you see it. And I don't think the price will reflect it. Once people see it for real, then they'll go, if it's going to affect, if it affects the price, that's probably when it will show up. You know,
I salute everyone in this chat that's holding ADA, that's been holding ADA throughout these tumultuous times, even with the delays, because I mean, we're working for our investment, and nothing is given. But like Rick was saying, there have been some delays, and you know, had we released, you know, a year ago, we may have had those kind of like Tezos like gains. You know, I know they got added to Coinbase, and they've been considerably going up over this past year, even through the bear market. And same with other projects that have been added to Coinbase, like Link and other projects that have just had a price surge. But ADA has been struggling with price for sure. I mean, every crypto has been struggling with price, but ADA is not immune to that.
Yeah, all of them are down at like 90% over from all-time high.
Yeah.
And again, not financial advice, and I'm terrible at analyzing the price. I just don't have the mind for it. Ira Bliss asked a question. He's concerned ADA price is affected by a trading bot that may never recover. And I don't know. I don't know how trading bots work, but I think the biggest thing with ADA is there's some giant bag holders out there. So my number one concern is that Emergo gets the people of Japan to join the testnet and to join the mainnet. But the biggest bag holders, you know, there are billions of ADA at ICO in Japan. There's billions of ADA in Japan. And I can't speak Japanese. I can only speak a tiny bit of it, just enough to, you know, and so my number one concern at this point, along with you, Ira, I understand your concerns. Mine is, are those folks in Japan on board? Did Emergo communicate to them? I don't know. Did they get the communications to move their ADA to testnet to stake it? And are they going to get the communications to apply staking? Right?
Yes.
The only reason I don't know is because I can't speak Japanese. I see their tweets that are in Japanese, but I can't read it.
Yeah.
So maybe they did. Maybe they did.
That's going to be. You go ahead.
No. I was going to say that's the number one factor. We need those giant bag holders, which is the majority are Japanese people. We need those bag holders to stake. Otherwise, the protocol is more easily attackable. And instead of going to Ouroboros Genesis, you would have to go to Ouroboros BFT. I don't want that to happen. I want it to go to Genesis.
True.
Okay.
We'll just get a couple more questions. Nayan Joshi says, I'm a computer engineer working in the public sector. I've been watching Cardano since 2017. I watched all IOHK videos and I own ADA. Awesome. Geoffrey Shearing said, hodlers are either crazy, stupid, or brilliant. Time will tell which one. Yeah. I mean, those are three categories. I don't think that anyone necessarily taking this opportunity or taking this risk is a bad decision, even if it doesn't play out, because life is short, and putting your money where your mouth is and getting involved with a protocol or a movement or a company, even if it fails, I mean, it shows just extreme heart. You know, I don't know, you know, if everyone was just sitting on their ass at home and just not trying to expand businesses and create value, then nothing would get done. So even if it fails, it's like, you know, everyone that's gotten involved with this project has a certain level of foresight, or has a dream, or understands what needs to be done. So, you know, I think everyone, of course, time will tell whether or not this investment is pays back any dividends. But for now, I think everyone that's gotten involved in crypto and these kind of projects are doing what they can.
Yeah. And there's another question from, this one's hard for me to answer, but it was said, Philippe and Rick, this thing keeps changing. From Wistery Mediker. Says, Philippe and Rick, has Vitalik painted Ethereum into a corner? I don't know. It's possible. And what I mean by that is, I've seen some diagrams where every time Ethereum has a major change in the protocol, it loses compatibility with previous smart contracts that are holding Ethereum in them, and therefore it loses more immutability. During the fork with Ethereum Classic, they lost some immutability on the Ethereum side. And every time they do a major change, not every time, sometimes when they do major changes, they just lose a little bit more of the immutability. So
It's
maybe,
very,
yeah.
you know, the best analogy to describe it is I think Ethereum was released on testnet status. This is why it's good not to be impatient with Cardano being going into testnet staking before mainnet staking, because they have a chance to fix their mistakes. If it was a project like Ethereum or EOS, they wouldn't have even done a balance check. It would have been just straight out the gate. Just let's go. Any problems, we'll fix it. But there's serious problems with that because obviously people were having glitches, balances weren't reflecting. So it's good to throw test balls first before throwing the real one to make sure that everything is completely accurate. This is not this is high level assurance. Charles has repeatedly said over his previous AMAs and back when he was doing the whiteboard videos that this is high assurance code. We're focused on things like airplanes and cars. When they're testing cars, they can't just say, "Oh yeah, we think it's good to go." We don't need to do one of those crash test dummies, and we don't need to take the statistics from those crash tests. We're just going to put it on the open road. No, it's because years of cars not using protocols, not using procedures, and people dying and losing their lives and getting maimed is why certain laws exist now that force companies to take the proper protocols in order to ensure that their product is safe and guaranteed. Those protocols, that crash testing system hasn't been invented yet for blockchain, but Cardano is coming with it. They don't need any kind of governance to tell them that this is the correct way to build code. So you got to figure out what car you're going to drive. You know, are you going to drive an old 1990 car that has recalled airbags, or are you going to figure out which vehicle you want to buy with a safety system and certain protocols in place to protect your assets and make sure that your experience is fun and enjoyable? So,
Yeah. And then I prefer break it on the test net, fix it on the test net before you release it into the wild. Yeah. And there's a couple other good points in here, and it's scrolling faster than I can keep up with it. Oh, Yardmaster5 asks, can you explain why there's still a choice between BFT versus Prouse? There will always be a choice. Cardano will continue to evolve for decades. It will never be done. It's just a matter of how much done is done. Like when Voltaire's released, that's a major milestone. So, but after Voltaire is released, the community will continue to vote forever on what are the next steps to do with Cardano, as long as the protocol remains intact. The reason you can choose between BFT and Prouse, there's a video from Duncan Coots on the IOHK Whip YouTube channel. Check out the video from Duncan. You can pick, there are many, many flavors of Ouroboros. And when Ouroboros Genesis is needed, it can be selected and used. And then when Ouroboros Chronos is needed, it can be activated for the timekeeping. And when Ouroboros Crypsinos is needed for privacy, that can be implemented or activated for the privacy. So all the different flavors of Ouroboros are kind of like layers or variations where you can select them. Kind of like, do you need snow tires or racing tires on your car? If you need the snow tires on your Toyota Prius, you put snow tires on it because you're up north. And if you need the street tires on your Toyota Prius, you put them on that. You know what I mean? Kind of like that. So
yes,
they're selectable, different types of Ouroboros. Check out Duncan Coots' video on IOHK. And a few more questions here. What do we got? And we're going to wrap up. We hit the hour.
Yes.
Well over the hour.
Yes, we are over the hour. And
All right.
Malky says, in the future, is the percentage of staking rewards, will it decrease or stay all the time the same percentage? So chances are it's going to decrease when we hit mainnet. It's probably going to be higher during the test net, but it's variable. This is a math formula. It's not like a fixed rate. It's going to be a variable rate depending on the number of transactions in each epoch. You can go ahead and look at certain calculators online. I know the calculator that Vantas Subhuman created is the best one out there. It's the original. And you can play around with the number of transactions and see how that affects the ROI, but it will change.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We got a quick comment from Wistry. It seems like Charles is in a hurry to finish Cardano to please the trolls. I disagree. That's not accurate. He's not in a hurry to finish Cardano. It's just expensive. The longer it takes to finish, the more the costs run up. So I think he's trying to finish Cardano to meet expectations.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to describe it. That's probably the best way to describe it. He's in a hurry to finish it to meet people's expectations, which is not a hurry. He's a visionary, so visionaries tend to be a little more patient. They got to think long term. Otherwise, you know, but fair enough. Okay, I think we're good. We got everything covered.
Yeah, sounds good. I think we got everything. We want to thank everyone. We hit an 80-minute podcast today, so we usually try to do our live streams for an hour, maintain consistency. And we want to thank everyone for joining us on Sunday. We know that you could be spending time with family and friends, and you give us an hour of your time to have a nice conversation about Cardano. Every week, there seems to be more and more things happening. Today, we discussed we talked about debt trap diplomacy in Africa with the Cardano initiative. We talked about what you need to do to make sure that you're ready for the second snapshot. The date hasn't been announced. We want to thank everyone for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed to the Cardano Effect podcast, please consider subscribing. We are growing as a podcast, and we couldn't have done it without you. I want to tell everyone, have a happy Thanksgiving to all the U.S. citizens out there. Enjoy your time with your family and friends. Make sure that your ADA is on a snapshot ready address before the second snapshot. The price has been brutal, so we understand that, and we are with you. We know that Bitcoin just tumbles out of nowhere, and everyone's portfolio is just hurting. Turn off Blockfolio. Go spend some time with your family. Go spend some time with your friends. Check back in a few weeks. It'll probably be the exact same thing. So, but yes, it's been a free fall. But Rick and we definitely understand your pain. So with that being said, we appreciate you tuning in to episode 61 of the Cardano Effect podcast. We're going to try to get more guests, but if not, we're going to continue doing our live streams every week. And until the next episode of the Cardano Effect, everyone, thank you. Bye, everyone.